Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and today it's great to have Carrie here. Carrie, you're somebody who's been really an advocate for Gen Z when it comes to anxiety and just understanding who they are and giving them ways to cope with this environment that they're in, the society that they're in. And you've written a book on this called Mindfire, which is getting a lot of traction. It's nice to see that, and talking about your journey and your struggles, and also relating that to people and to some of the lessons you've learned from there to kind of give those back and help with anxiety, which is great. You're also a reporter with OK Magazine. You've been doing some great work over there, and you've been producing content for some time and amassed an incredible audience. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So just kind of like going back to, how certain passions form for you. Like what made you interested in the kind of the content creation slash reporting world and, producing content, putting yourself out there like that? How did this passion of yours originate?
So I grew up as a writer. I've been writing for as long as I can remember. My mom is also a writer, so I just watched her typing away at her computer when I was a little girl. And as soon as I learned how to write in school, I couldn't stop. I published children's books with my mom at a really young age and really came into my own as a writer in 2018 when I launched a fashion blog and basically started writing articles on my own website because I was too young to be hired by a magazine or any other publication. And in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, I had a lot of time on my hands. And that's when I really started my solo debut book, my passion project, which is called My Real Life Rom-Com. Basically, like Gen Z's Guide to Sex in the City, all these dating experiences and what people can learn from them, presenting it in a vulnerable way that maybe is not already out there right now. And that book was an Amazon bestseller, Barnes and Noble bestseller. It was number one in 17 magazines, Young Adult Books of the Year. I mean, it was crazy how well that book was received just because there was such a gap in the market for something like it. And the thing that resonated the most with people in rom-com was this concept of self-love. And to me, self-love is tied in very closely with my anxiety journey, which is what brought me to Mindfire, which is my latest book.
So what made you like interested in just writing books? Because that's quite an ambitious project. There's a lot of people that don't make money from books. It's not an easy space to be in. What made you just decide, hey, I'm going to go for it and just do this?
I think I've just been doing it as long as I can remember. At the time, I had this idea for a children's book to write with my mom, and I kind of took that idea and ran with it. And the reason why I've stuck with it through all these years is just because I feel like there's a lot that I have to say and a lot that I want to teach people and a lot I want to do to empower people. And sometimes an article or an Instagram caption isn't enough to capture my feelings and emotions about the world as a book can.
So what's your process to write a book? Because now you've written another one here. How do you kind of do this in a consistent way, stay on topic, figure out how to structure the books? I mean, they're serious projects. How do you kind of, write them all? What's your style?
I think it differs for every book. For Romcom, it was literally just me coming home after every date and writing about the experience and turning that into a chapter. So that happened over probably several years of just going on dates. And it wasn't just like me sitting down and going, okay, today we're just going to write. It really just came naturally and when I felt moved to. And then in terms of Mindfire, I never planned on writing a book about my mental health because it was something really vulnerable. And I decided to do so one day. I was at school and having a panic attack. And in this almost this fury of panic, I felt like nobody understood what I was going through. And I wanted to make people understand. So I looked back at these journal entries that I had written over the past 3 years prior. And what I did was I put all those journal entries together and it made about 50 pages. And I realized that I could expand upon it and turn it into a book. So I went back into those journal entries. I added more detail. I added more chapters about, what my anxiety felt like, what I thought people needed to know. And that's how it turned into a book. So it's just a really organic process.
Mhm. Are there like kind of skills you've learned from being somebody who's been writing for a long time, in the magazine world and the editorial side of things that have been really helpful with writing books? Has it translated over a lot? Because it's just a different style of writing, reporting versus books.
Yeah, it is a different style of writing. I think just staying true to your own voice as a writer is important, whether you're writing about yourself or about other people. You shouldn't try to sound like someone else, make your writing sound too formal or fancy. I really just try to sound like myself, and especially in memoir writing, I feel like it's crucial because people are going to resonate with the real you, not you trying to put on a front. So I just try to be as vulnerable and authentic and detailed in my writing as possible, whether it's memoir or just article style writing.
What do you think you did right marketing wise, Carrie, for Rom-Com book? Like, what did you do right in that segment that enabled you to get it so high on the charts in so many categories? Like, how did you get it out there besides your own platform?
It really was just my own platform. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
very lucky that I have a pretty large social media following. And also, just I feel like people discovered it because it was something so unique that nobody had really ever seen. Not only a Gen Z Sex in the City type of thing, but one that was based on real life. You didn't see people talking about their dating experiences like that in book form before. I wanted to create this world people could escape into, but also at the same time feel like they could relate to these emotions and these experiences and see themselves in it. And I feel like that's why that book performed so well, because so many people could see themselves in me, and I filled this void for them that they could have a role model or a big sister type that they could look up to in the dating world.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting niche that is now being served with what you've written there. I mean, I'm sure you can expand on it more. Like, have you thought about that?
I have, but also out of respect for my current relationship, I'm probably not going to. And yeah, I mean, as soon as I turned in the book, I like met my boyfriend a month after. So I
Mhm.
feel like I wouldn't talk about dating as much, but Mindfire really is the expansion because the final chapter of Romcom is about how I'm crushing on all these guys, but at the end of the day, self-love is most important. And I talk about my anxiety journey and how that's how I found self-love. And Mindfire goes into that story in more depth. So in a way, it is a continuation of Rom-Com. It's just taking it down another path.
Mhm. Why do you think so many people today in Gen Z just have this massive anxiety problem? Like, it almost seems like anxiety didn't even exist, when we were like when I was growing up, like, 15 years ago. But like now it's anxiety is like the biggest thing and people talk about it all the time. And it's a huge problem. Why do you think it's such an issue today?
I feel like, I mean, just simply put, we're coming out of a pandemic. This is a super unique, once in a lifetime event.
Mm-hmm.
My generation was especially suffering because I didn't have a prom, I didn't have a graduation, nor did a lot of people out there. And we didn't really realize how that affected us. All of a sudden, we couldn't see our friends again. We were isolated in our homes. And as a result, we suffered some really intense anxiety. I mean, everyone did, but especially my generation. So I feel like now more and more people are struggling. I mean, look at the state of the world we're in. Everyone has their own political opinions. Everyone always feels charged about something, and that causes a lot of anxiety. So I feel like it's a combination of a lot of different things, to be honest. But what makes me hopeful is that the resources now are tenfold than what they were when you were growing up, probably. I mean,
Yeah.
there are so many therapists out there that you could see. And, I collaborated really closely with this organization called NOCD that's helping people with OCD specifically through talk therapy on an app. Like, we have iPhones, we have apps with resources now. So I feel like it's trending upwards in terms of recovery, but at the same time, we are coming out of a pandemic, and that's not just, an issue that's going to be out of our minds one day. Like we can close our eyes and probably remember what it felt like to live in a pandemic for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting points to kind of unpack there, but I mean, definitely being stuck at home was not something that helped. It was very intense. I mean, when I was younger, mental health was not even something people talked about. Now
Yeah,
it's become a big topic, which is good, but it was not even existent. Let alone access to therapy as convenient as it is today.
100%. And I think even though therapy is accessible, it's not accessible to everyone. And
Mhm.
that's what's pretty frustrating for me now, at least, because there are these apps out there and, meditation resources. And oftentimes this huge overwhelm can feel like a lot to someone who is going through anxiety and might not have the proper tools or know where to turn first. So, what I always say is there needs to be more mental health education in schools, first and foremost. We can't just let someone grow up, they experience their first anxiety attack. Boom, what do I do? Do I use this app? Do I see this therapist? It really starts, I would argue, as early as kindergarten,
Mm.
teaching kids about what it means to feel panic, to feel fear, really having them familiar with these emotions so that eventually, when they do learn about anxiety in middle school, high school years, they're better equipped to handle it.
That's a good idea. Yeah. How did you come up with this title, Mindfire? It's an interesting title. I mean, it does really describe what the situation is, and your topic is about how to extinguish the flame. And that's what the writing is all about. How did you kind of come up with this idea and this theme?
Well, a big part of having anxiety, and I have OCD as well, is having intrusive thoughts, things that pop into your brain that are contrary to what you believe in and can be quite disturbing and cause a lot of panic. And oftentimes, that flood of intrusive thoughts can feel like your mind is on fire. It can feel really heavy and hot and overwhelming, and it feels like you can't put it out. So that's where I got Mind Fire from. Originally, I wanted it to be Girl on Fire, but sounded like Alicia Keys, so I couldn't do that. Brain on Fire sounded too clinical. And then I thought of Mind on Fire, but then I just nixed the on and decided to coin my own term and put them together as Mind Fire.
Yeah, I think it's really catchy, Mindfire. I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it describes the problem pretty simply. Like everyone can relate to that Mindfire when your mind's on
Yeah.
fire. Yeah, that's good. So when you think about like emotions and like I mean you've kind of describing in the book your emotional journey, and what you went through. Like, have you thought about the relationship you can have with yourself and how you handle emotions? Because there's some people that like are not emotional, some people that are more emotional. Emotions can lead to anxiety. Like, do you have
Mhm.
some kind of thoughts on like maybe even just like some tips in general from your experiences of like how to best handle anxiety and your emotions?
Yeah, I feel like there are a lot of things you can obviously do to help your anxiety, and different things work for different people. For
Hmm.
me, movement has been huge. I'm a big runner, but you don't have to run a marathon to boost your mental health. You could
Yeah.
go on a walk, you could stretch. Moving your body is just a surefire way to boost your endorphins.
Mhm.
So I would suggest that. Using your five senses to ground yourself to your surroundings, naming five things you see, hear, smell, etc. around you really just brings you back to the present moment when you are a little bit caught up in those intrusive thoughts. And I would also just say practicing patience with yourself, realizing that there's not necessarily a finish line with anxiety. There's no medal you're going to get at the end telling you you're cured. It really is a lifelong battle. And the goal is not to get rid of it, it's to become stronger in it so that when it does arise, you're better equipped to handle it. So I would just say being patient with yourself, realizing that it's not going to get better, but you are going to get stronger. And once you do realize that, I feel like you're going to remove some of the panic attached to the situation.
Did you like kind of figure out like the best ways to cope with this yourself just through trying things like how did you figure out that exercise was better for you? Was that like a recommendation and like the exercise made you feel less anxious?
I mean, a lot of my recommendations I got from just being in therapy, but exercise specifically, I mean, I've always been a big exercise fitness person, and I didn't realize how much it helped my mental health
Yeah.
until 2020 when it was really sustaining me. I mean, I would go out on a run and for an hour, my intrusive thoughts would just be quieter and it would just be so peaceful. And I lived for that run. I would wake up every morning and it would feel like this total relief from the mind fire, from all the intrusive thoughts that were going through my brain.
Yeah. I mean, I found exercise is so important for all of this. And I've gotten to a fitness routine just because I mean, one, it feels better, physically, but also just it keeps you calmer, helps with
Yeah,
anxiety, with everything. I think it's something like we forget a lot about, just like how important fitness is. Besides the physical health aspect, like mentally, it's massive.
it's huge. And like I said before, everyone has their own relationship with fitness, even if you're not a high impact cardio type of person. Going out on a walk around the block, walking your dog can have huge benefits. Even like in the middle of the day, if you're caught up in your computer and you're working all the time, just getting outside can be so beneficial for your mental health.
Totally. What are some other areas that are just different things you can do that can help you with anxiety that you found, like small things, maybe small changes you can make?
I think just like reframing your mindset and realizing, again, it's not going to get better, you just get stronger. I feel like a lot of people with anxiety are rushing to feel better, and changing that mindset, flipping the light switch and saying, there's nothing I'm chasing towards right now. The goal is just to become comfortable in where I am and let the background noise be background noise. When you get an intrusive thought, it feels urgent and alarming and something that you have to tend to immediately. But a lot of times, these intrusive thoughts are intrusive for a reason. They're because you don't align with them, you don't like them, they're garbage thoughts, and we don't need to pay attention to them. So at the end of the day, although anxiety can feel really urgent, doing nothing is better than panicking and doing what you think should be something.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Just sometimes you just gotta take a step back from all of it.
Yeah, take a step back. You don't need to do anything in the moment. You don't need to freak out if you get a thought that's opposite of what you believe in or is dark and disturbing. You kind of just got to sit in it and go, okay, I'm in the present moment right now. Use your five senses, ground yourself, and just let it fade into the background.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you said. They're about being in the present moment. Like that's one of the most important things. Like anxiety, I think, comes from a lot of just like thinking about stuff that you can't control or just isn't right now relevant. Like being in the present just gets rid of a lot of that.
Yeah, a lot of these thoughts we get are forward thinking thoughts or ruminating about the past, but that's not helpful and it's not productive. So I would just say to try your best to ground yourself to the present moment and force yourself into doing something productive. Even though it's uncomfortable in the moment, that's what helps me a lot of the time too. Just making myself right, making myself run, doing something in the moment to make yourself feel good.
Yeah. So Carrie, what's kind of like next for you? Like what is your vision for where you're at? I mean, you're so young and you've accomplished already a lot. You have a best-selling book in only your 20s. What do you want to do now? Like what is your vision for your career and for your journey? Let's just say over the next 5 to 10 years.
I mean, I've told my story. I think right now I want to empower others to share their own stories and tell their stories too. And I think I'm really lucky as a journalist that I am telling people's stories every day. And I guess my goal was just to be continuing to tell stories that matter, hopefully shedding light on people who are raising awareness about mental health. And I would love to keep folding in mental health into what I do because I do think it's so important and misunderstood. So anything that allows me to write something that matters is what I'm looking to do. I don't have the specific answers yet, but I just know that whatever I want to write, I want to make a difference.
That's great. Well, that was all the questions that I had. I appreciate you taking the time and doing this. I think it's really awesome and just authentic that, this is your mission. You want to help others, and you're doing that through a book and through content and every area that you possibly can. And I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to take away from Mindfire, especially having somebody, their age that's
Yeah.
relatable to them, writing a book like this and talking about their experiences and talking about what works and what doesn't, is really, it's really a unique niche. And I'm just excited to see it, grow and scale and all that you do next. Thanks for coming on, Carrie.
Thank you.